In this video, we are going to demonstrate how to properly troubleshoot embroidery thread tensions on a single or multi-needle embroidery machine, including multi-head embroidery machines. So for troubleshooting embroidery thread tension, it's really not all that difficult. A lot of people hype it up a lot more on Facebook, and it makes it seem really discouraging and complicated to figure it out. There are a lot of knobs, especially when you add a bunch of heads and you have tons of thread, but you really only need to focus on one head at a time. If you have multiple heads, that's where you're at. If you have a single head, it's even easier. For most people, you're not just going to go in and start monkeying with your tensions, because that's quite often how you make it worse if you are trying to do it without having a problem to actually fix. I'm going to show you an actual example in a real-world production piece that I had. So this patch right here is a little concerning because it looks really bad. You can see there's white thread coming out from here, and I'm using white bobbins, so it is very likely that that would be the bobbin. You can also see that the red looks really bad compared to other ones like that. You can see again in this satin there's a bunch. All of the black, it does not look very pretty. So what exactly happened between this patch to that one? Let's look at the satin for an example. You can see that we are seeing bobbin coming on the top end. So what exactly does that mean? There are two situations that could arise from that. The first one being that yellow could be super tight and pulling the bobbin over to the top. Or it could be the opposite, where the bobbin is super loose and the yellow is just normal tension, but it's greater than what the bobbin is and is pulling it to the top. So we can apply that thought process on all of the colors. So if we look at the red, it's the same thing. White is obviously going to be a little harder, but we can compare it to other whites and we can see that this white looks quite odd as well. Especially once you go to the black, you can really see it there as well. We happen to develop this chart. You can find it on our website. You can search for bobbin in the search bar and it'll take you right to this. Basically what we're going to be looking at is you just decipher it based on this. So I have multiple needles, and on all four of the needles that I used, we see that we are getting bobbin on the top. So we're looking at this one right here, this pink example. So pink is our top thread and the bottom is the bobbin, which is white. So we're seeing bobbin coming on top. Since it's not just one needle, we're going to all needles. So it's going to say that our bobbin is too loose. If this was only on one needle, we would see that the top thread is too tight. That was the first situation that I talked about. There are other examples like this one here where you have lint in the bobbin case spring. That could very well be it, because it is, especially if you look at it, you can see that it's very sporadic on how much bobbin is actually coming on here. You can see that it is very sporadically in intensity. So right here you can see that there's quite a bit of bobbin, and then a little, not nearly as much, and then every so often there's a lot of bobbin. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do. We're going to check out the bobbin. So the bobbin, the anatomy of this is pretty simple. You got your lever, you got either a pigtail, some machines use a U instead of a pigtail, and then you got your spring. You also got the tension screw and obviously your bobbin. So when I go ahead and I pull on my thread, I can tell it is super loose. So I know something happened to the tension on this. I can already tell what it is, and our situation with lint under the bobbin case spring is most likely going to be our issue. In fact, you can see there's quite a bit of gunk under there. So what is the step to fix this? Believe it or not, it's super easy and super cheap. So go ahead, get yourself a business card, take the corner of it and just slip it underneath the spring and just kind of pull the corner through, and you'll see that I'm clearing out all of this lint. And you just kind of get it out of there. Just like that. And now I can take my thread again, and it is already back to normal just by doing that. So I'm very confident to say that that is the only thing I had to do to fix this. So now I can put this back in the machine and hit run on my design, and we can see how it does. So now that we've finished a couple extra patches, we're coming back and just reviewing what the changes did. So this patch, it still is a bad patch because all the previous issues, but after we made that change, all our lines started turning out a lot better. Like our black is looking pretty good. The white, red, anything that was done after our change is good. And our next patch was good, and this one is good so far. So if you had any questions about that, make sure that you're checking your bobbin. Make sure there's no lint in it. Also, always check your thread path. Make sure that there's no lint in between the discs. You'll see a lot of times that you'll get lint built up in between them, and that'll cause the disc not to sit properly on your thread, which will loosen the tension on the top, which usually will pull your top thread to the bottom. So just follow that chart that we have on the website, and you should be back to embroidering at full speed.